Well, hello everyone. It's an absolute beautiful sunny day today, Thursday, and I hope you get a chance to experience some of God's goodness, either outside today or perhaps enjoying the sunshine from your window. Again, an absolutely beautiful spring day. I'd like to begin by asking you a question. How did you come to know Christ? How did you come into a relationship with Him? What was your story? Now, I know some of us can vividly recall the details of when we received God's gracious gift of salvation, while others of us may have more of a faint recollection. But regardless, I'm sure that while our stories have a lot of variety, as God works in untold numerous ways to bring us to that place to receive salvation, regardless of all the stories we may be able to share, we all receive the same salvation and the same call to action as Christ followers. To love God with our entire being, with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. We're called to love others as we love ourselves, and we're called to go and tell the world about the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, throughout the New Testament, we're given more guidance and explanation on how to go about this call to action, how to succeed on this call to action. And in it, in the New Testament, we find wisdom and encouragement to live out our call. One of these explanations comes in 1 Peter, where the Apostle Peter charges believers. He says, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect." So what Peter is saying is that part of your call as a Christian is to be prepared to make a defense. Simply put, to be able to explain your faith and answer questions. Peter's instruction perhaps makes you squirm a little, or a lot, because the very idea of explaining the Christian faith and answering questions for the reason for belief in Jesus Christ may well cause you to become rather anxious. You know and you believe in Jesus Christ, but to articulate it is a whole different story. Yet that is what Peter is telling us in this verse. Now, thankfully, God has raised up individuals throughout the centuries whom He has gifted with incredible intelligence and brilliant minds, individuals who have refined this ability to make a defense of the faith, which is known as apologetics. Now, let me take you back to the mid-1990s. I was working for a Bible college in Alberta in the enrollment and recruitment department. I was given the assignment to represent the college at a large conference in Abbotsford, British Columbia. It was the World Evangelical Alliance, and hundreds of denominations from around the world were represented by their leaders. The keynote speaker for the event, I had never heard the likes of before. And it was the first time I was introduced to the whole area of apologetics. The speaker's name was Ravi, Zacharias. And what struck a chord with me was not only his mastery of words, but his passionate and articulate defense of the Christian faith. While he was an intellectual giant, it was his passion to communicate the timeless and rock-solid truths of the Bible, all pointing to the saving and redeeming work of Jesus Christ, that struck a chord with me, and he did it with such humility and gentleness. This past Tuesday, Ravi Zacharias succumbed to bone cancer. It was a short battle, and he died at the age of 74. We have undoubtedly lost an influential voice for the Christian faith too soon. The ministry he led was known as Ravi Zacharias International Ministries, and its primary goal is this: to help the thinker believe and the believer to think. Ravi Zacharias traveled the world extensively. He wrote numerous books. He had a radio program. He did various video series, all with the aim to equip Christians to deal with the hard questions dealing with the origin of creation and life, questions dealing with the meaning of life, questions dealing with the reason for morality, questions dealing with our ultimate destiny. And all of these questions, every worldview must answer. Zacharias defended the credibility of the Christian message and the Bible. He spoke against the weakness of today's modern intellectual movements, and ultimately he passionately taught on the uniqueness and transformation power of Jesus Christ, defending the truth of Jesus Christ so that others may find life in him. And all of this so that the mandate Peter gives us in 1 Peter 3 verses 15 might be fulfilled. And I'd like to read that verse again. To set apart Christ in our hearts as Lord, and always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that is within, with gentleness and respect, all for the glory of God. Now, incidentally, the word, Greek word, or the word here, reason, that we read in the English text, in the Greek is the word apologia, meaning a verbal defense, from which we get the word apologetics. God used Ravi Zacharias and will continue to do so through his writings and his ongoing ministry, through those that will carry the mantle, to show us the importance of being ready to give a verbal defense of our faith. Now, if Ravi was just all about sharing his vast intellectual knowledge on stage or via media, we would have seen through the facade if his life contradicted what he spoke about. But his character and demeanor reinforced his powerful defense of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that is ultimately true of us as well. For the way we live our life will ultimately reinforce our defense or undermine it. I want to finish by quoting Zacharias, commenting on this particular verse, 1 Peter 3, verse 15. It may be a challenge to us all. He says, quote, I have always found this to be such a fascinating verse, because the Apostle Peter, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, knew the hazards and the risks of being an answer bearer to the sincere questions that people would pose of the gospel. Indeed, when one contrasts the answers of Jesus to any of his detractors, it is not hard to see that their resistance is not of the mind, but rather of the heart. Furthermore, I have little doubt that the single greatest obstacle to the impact of the gospel has not been its inability to provide answers, but the failure on our part to live it out. The Irish evangelist Gypsy Smith once said, there are 5 gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Christian, and some people will never read the first 4. In other words, apologetics is often first seen before it is heard. The call to a life reflecting the person of Christ is the ultimate calling. The skeptic is not slow to notice when there's a disparity, and because of that may question the whole gospel in its supernatural claim. Yet when they are met with the gentleness and respect, we will help meet the deepest longings of the heart and mind, and they will find where true discovery lies. Let us live so accordingly." Unquote. I thank God for the life of his servant, Ravi Zacharias, who helped us meet the deepest longings of the heart and mind, finding that truth ultimately lies in Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life. God bless you.